Listening Comprehension, Vietnamese Standardized Test of English Proficiency, Ho Chi Minh City University of Education. Copyright 2016. In this section of the test, you will have an opportunity to demonstrate your ability to understand conversations and talks in English. There are 3 parts in this section with special directions for each part. Answer all the questions on the basis of what is stated or implied by the speakers in the recording. There will be time for you to read the instructions and you will have a chance to check your work. The recording will be played once only. Time allowance is about 40 minutes, including 5 minutes to transfer your answers to your answer sheet. Part 1. Questions 1 to 8. Directions. In this part, you will hear 8 short announcements, or instructions. There is 1 question for each announcement or instruction. For each question, choose the right answer, A, B, C or D. Then, on the answer sheet, find the number of the question and fill in the space that corresponds to the letter of the answer that you have chosen. Now, let's listen to an example. On the recording, you will hear:
Hello. This is the travel agency returning your call. You left a message about the holiday you've booked, asking which meals are included in the cost during your stay at Sunny Hotel. Lunch and dinner are free, but if you wish to have breakfast in the hotel, you will need to pay an extra amount of money, depending on what you order. Let me know if I can help you with any other information. Goodbye.
On the test book, you will read, which meal is not included in the price of the holiday. A. Breakfast. B. Lunch. C. Dinner. D. All. The correct answer is A. Breakfast. Now, let's begin with the first question. First, you'll have some time to read the questions 1 to 8. Question 1. Who is Jenna Min?
The recipient of this year's Ig Prize needs very little introduction. I'm sure that you're all quite familiar with her work, since she's one of the world's foremost authorities in atomic physics. Dr. Jenna Min has recently published a series of papers that have received a lot of attention. As her advisor when she was in college, I have had the honour of watching her develop this work. I, like many others, believe that her work has the potential to revolutionise the field. We're honoured to have you, Dr. Min.
Question 2. Where is the announcement probably being made?
Can I have everyone's attention, please? We regret to announce that tonight's hockey game will be pushed back to Sunday due to poor ice conditions. The game will start at 9 p.m., not 7 p.m. The ticket stubs from tonight's game will be honoured for the make-up game. Please note, for seating purposes, those with the stubs from tonight's game will have rights to the seats as shown on those ticket stubs.
Question 3. When was the work initially supposed to be finished?
Mr. Erickson, this is Paul from Jerry's Repairs, and I'm calling to let you know that the paint job on your van is finished and is ready to be picked up. We apologize for being a day late, but the special type of 3-layer paint we use on your vehicle needed extra time to dry. Anyhow, we'll be open for another hour if you'd like to come by tonight. If not, you can pick it up tomorrow. We're open from 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. See you soon.
Question 4. What should people do to receive a gift?
Are you about to throw out another rechargeable battery? Do your rechargeable batteries not last long enough for you? Let our new Nicklith rechargeable batteries be the answer. Using the newest technology in combining nickel metal hydride and lithium, we have developed a product that will help you get the most out of all your electronic tools and equipment. We guarantee that our batteries will beat out any other leading batteries on the market. And for a limited time only, when you purchase a set of 4 Nicklith batteries, you will receive a free gift, our popular charger. Once you use Nicklith, you'll never use another brand.
Question 5. What is provided to people for free?
On this panoramic city tour, you will visit the most important and representative buildings and monuments of Malton City. We will also travel around the noteworthy areas in the ancient quarters and the 19th century streets. At the ancient quarters, a local artisan will accompany us to explain the ancient techniques of gold and silver refining. The visit will end at the Cowboy Longhorn, where you can enjoy free, refreshing drinks. On our tour, you'll be traveling on a deluxe, air-conditioned bus, while an official tour guide reveals for you the deepest secrets of this marvelous city.
Question 6. How long was Jerry a part of nightlife?
Welcome back to Celebrity Spotlight. If you have just joined us, we have been chatting with Jerry Simpson, the star of this summer's hit sitcom, Summer of George. As most of our viewers probably know, Jerry was one of the co-stars in Nightlife. So Jerry, in contrast to the easygoing, laid-back character you played in Nightlife, your current character George is very uptight and edgy. Was it a difficult transition for you to play a character that is completely opposite from the one you were used to for almost a decade?
Question 7. How can people request the service?
When was the last time you cleaned your carpet? Your carpet takes endless abuse from you and your family every day. The kids dirty it with mud, you spill coffee on it, and your husband leaves a trail of potato chip crumbs while watching the football game. Don't you think it's about time to give your poor carpet a good cleaning? Why don't you pick up the phone and call Carpet King? We'll clean any 2 rooms for $19.99. And if you call now, we'll throw in a free bottle of our amazing stain remover. To schedule an appointment with us, call 555-5001.
Question 8. When will the work take place?
Alright, the next subject on the agenda is the work on the internet lines. You've probably already seen the technicians walking around on Tuesday. Well, they have discovered a problem with our lines on the first floor that will require some major work. What that means is that on Thursday, all the offices on the first floor will be shut down and the internet cables will be replaced. So, anyone with an office on the first floor will have to use the meeting rooms on the second floor that day. I've arranged for some computers to be set up there, but make sure that you transfer any files that you need to work on.
That is the end of part 1. Part 2. Questions 9 to 20. In this part, you will hear 3 conversations. The conversations will not be repeated. There are 4 questions for each conversation. For each question, choose the correct answer. A, B, C, or D. Questions 9 to 12 refer to the following conversation. First, take some time to read the questions 9 to 12.
So all that needs to be done is an oil change, right? How long do you think it'll take?
I have to do a job on another truck first, so I'd say yours should be done by 5:30.
It's 3:30 now, so that means I have to be back here in 2 hours. Is there anywhere around here where I can get access to the internet?
There is a public library just up the road. It's about a 10-minute walk from here. I'll see you in a little while.
Questions 13 to 16 refer to the following conversation. First, take some time to read the questions 13 to 16.
How would you like your hair done? Do you want to keep your style or go for a different look?
I'd like to try a new look. Can you cut the sides short and just trim a little off the top?
Certainly. That's a very popular look these days. All the men of your age are asking for that style.
Just one thing. Can you make it quick? I have to go to a staff meeting in an hour.
Questions 17 to 20 refer to the following conversation. First, take some time to read the questions 17 to 20.
We have a problem, Sally. I've just been told that our flight has been canceled due to a storm that is approaching Chicago. The only way to Chicago is via train or bus.
How long does it take to get to Chicago from New York by bus?
Unfortunately, about 20 hours. I don't think we can make it to the seminar.
That is the end of part 2. Part 3. Questions 21 to 35. In this part, you will hear 3 talks, lectures or conversations. The talks, lectures or conversations will not be repeated. There are 5 questions for each talk, lecture or conversation. For each question, choose the right answer. A, B, C or D. Questions 21 to 25 refer to the following conversation. First, take some time to read the questions 21 to 25.
Hi, I really need your help. I've got to prepare for a presentation, and I haven't got a clue about how to do a visual slideshow.
Well, that's why we're here. We have tutors who know all the word processing and presentation programs. Do you know what presentation viewer program you want to use?
I have no idea. Which is best?
That depends on what you want to do. Is your presentation just text, or do you want to use visuals with all the bells and whistles?
You mean like images and graphics? And things that move around on the screen?
Exactly. You can include sounds or video too.
Yes, absolutely. The better it looks, the better I hope my grade will be.
Oh, I think it's important that a presentation look good. But you have to have the substance too.
I guess so.
You know what I mean. If you have a good foundation for your presentation, you'll be fine.
Oh, right.
Anyway, I would advise you to use this presentation viewer program because it's pretty intuitive. You can figure it out as you go along.
I've never really tried it.
After your tutorial, I think you'll find it's pretty simple. Speaking of which, when do you want to schedule your tutoring session?
As soon as possible. My presentation is next week, and I'm nervous about speaking in front of other people anyway. It would be bad if I had no time to practice using the program.
That's true. So then how about tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Bring your outline.
Great. I'll do that. Can I bring my laptop with me?
Sure. See you then.
Now answer question 21. Now answer question 22.
Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
That depends on what you want to do. Is your presentation just text, or do you want to use visuals with all the bells and whistles?
What does the man mean when he says this?
Is your presentation just text, or do you want to use visuals with all the bells and whistles?
Now answer question 23. Now answer question 24. Now answer question 25. Questions 26 to 30 refer to the following professor's lecture. First, take some time to read the questions 26 to 30.
So last week we were talking about bookmaking and the different types of paper. I want to focus now on printing, and by that I mean the production of multiple copies of an image on paper or some other medium. Now, China. China has a long tradition of woodblock printing that goes back to at least the 800s, and, well, a lot of these images included written words or Chinese language characters. So you could say that the Chinese are credited with being the first to actually print words on paper. But the way they did that was to carve words into a block of wood, spread ink over it, and transfer that to paper. Now you have to realize that carving words into wood is a slow process, and eventually someone came up with the idea of carving individual characters into separate blocks of wood, so that of course they could move these around into any combination. This was the beginning of what is called movable type. Movable type allowed the Chinese to reproduce larger amounts of text at a time, but there was a problem. Wood is rather soft, so these wooden characters didn't last very long. So how did they solve that problem? Well, the solution to the problem actually came from Korea. And that solution was the invention of metal movable type. We know this because of a document that was printed in 1377. It has a very long name, but it's also known as Jikji. For a time, there was a question about what method was used to create this metal type. I'm talking about how the actual metal is molded into a shape. There were 3 different methods that were employed at the time. I don't want to get into the specifics of that right now. But after some experimentation and debate, scholars finally agreed that the shape of the mold was first created in beeswax. You know, the wax that comes from beehives. That's because when they tried to reproduce the style of the original Jikji document, they were only able to successfully recreate the style using the beeswax method. Here's how they did it. They would form the wax into the proper shape, spread clay over that, and bake it. The wax melted, and what was left behind was a baked clay mold. They then poured hot molten metal into the mold. After it cooled, they separated the metal from the clay and trimmed it. Well, okay, let's just stop here for a second, because, well, this is really interesting. Remember I said that the Jikji document was printed in 1377? Well, 75 years later, and halfway across the world, the first movable type document in the Western world was printed by a man named Gutenberg in Germany. I mean, if you think about the span of human history, 75 years is a very short time, and yet these 2 separate cultures basically made the same breakthrough in communication within a very short period of time. There are, of course, some significant differences between Gutenberg's methods and the methods of the creators of Jikji, like the kind of metal they used. For example, the Korean type was made of copper, while the German type was made of lead. And the kind of paper they used was really different too. Korean paper was made from the bark of mulberry trees, and the German paper was much heavier. It was parchment, made of sheepskin. But you know, the similarities are really much more fundamental. I mean, I think you could really argue that the greatest advancement in communication after the invention of writing was the invention of movable type. And it happened in 2 different places at relatively the same time.
Now answer question 26. Now answer question 27. Now answer question 28. Now answer question 29. Now answer question 30.
Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
For a time, there was a question about what method was used to create this metal type. I'm talking about how the actual metal is molded into a shape. There were 3 different methods that were employed at the time. I don't want to get into the specifics of that right now.
Why does the professor say this?
I don't want to get into the specifics of that right now.
Questions 31 to 35 refer to the following professor's lecture. First, take some time to read the questions 31 to 35.
Last week, we were talking about consumers' changing attitudes toward traditional modes of advertising. To remain effective, advertisers have to employ a variety of methods. One of those methods is product placement. Can anyone think of an example of product placement?
Like when a morning TV talk show host is drinking a cup of coffee from a famous coffee shop and you see that on camera?
That's right. Product placement is the practice of including branded products in mass media broadcasts, whether by mentioning the product by name or showing the product or brand logo visually. So if a character in a movie or in a TV show drinks from a can that shows the brand name, that's product placement. It's been a key strategy over the last 10 years, especially in film and television. But until recently, no one has really answered the key questions. Is product placement effective? And if so, how much? One way of defining effectiveness in this context is to look at how the company's stock price changes. If you can demonstrate that a specific product placement campaign caused the stock price to go up significantly, then you can say it was worth doing. And recently, a pair of marketing researchers devised a study to address the fundamental question of the value of product placement. The method they chose is pretty commonly used. It's called an event study. Basically, that just means that they analyzed an event from the past for which they have a lot of data, and they have the benefit of hindsight. Because time has gone by, they can isolate the event in time to look at long-term effects. In this case, the event they chose to examine was the placement of products in the most successful films of 2002. If you just look at the stock price after a movie's release, you can't just say, oh, they placed Crunchy brand potato chips in a scene, and the Crunchy brand stock price went up, so it was worth it. You have to look at the context of the market at the time. What was the expected stock price of the product's company when the movie was released to the public? What the researchers are looking for is something called abnormal return. Abnormal return refers to the deviation of the actual stock price from what can be projected from the general stock market movement at the time. Those projections are based on a lot of factors, and they've been shown to be extremely reliable. The researchers are confident that any abnormal returns, up or down, can be attributed to product placement. So in 2002, there were 31 movies that made $20 million in the U.S. over their first weekend. 24 of them had product placement, and those are the ones they studied.
So, what factors in the placement situation affected the stock prices?
Good question. Well, one hypothesis the researchers had was that the mere fact of product placement would have positive effect, and overall it did. In this case, they looked at the change in price between 2 days before the film and the actual premiere of the film. Investors get prior notice about a placement through a number of sources, and that generates investor interest, which translates into a positive abnormal return. There are a couple of other factors that didn't surprise the researchers. Let's say a film comes out and the critics just love it. And a top company has placed a product in the film, and the ad execs read the great reviews. How do you think they feel?
They're probably excited about it.
No. Surprisingly, the opposite happens. They're miserable because good reviews create a negative abnormal return. It seems people don't like to see product placement in a high art context. They want critically acclaimed films to be protected from advertising tactics.
Okay, but what if audiences love the film? Aren't viewers more apt to buy the products if they see actors using them?
Well, you see, when audiences love the film, they become very engaged in the plot. They're transported into another world. That's great for the filmmakers, but not for product placement. Truth is, audiences don't notice the product. They're too absorbed in the plot. It's the audience absorption factor. Yes?
How did researchers measure the audience absorption factor?
Well, they looked at records of audience surveys from the opening night for each film. Audience surveys include a rating for how enjoyable a film was. And according to past studies, enjoyability is a good indicator of how absorbed the audiences were in the film. But on average, the researchers found that product placement generates positive returns. There are a lot of other factors that can create a beneficial product placement that I haven't mentioned, but the value of this study is that it sheds some light on the product placement scenarios that generate the best payoff.
Now answer question 31. Now answer question 32. Now answer question 33. Now answer question 34. Now answer question 35.
Listen again to part of the lecture, then answer the question.
If you just look at the stock price after a movie's release, you can't just say, oh, they placed Crunchy brand potato chips in a scene, and the Crunchy brand stock price went up, so it was worth it. You have to look at the context of the market at the time. What was the expected stock price of the product's company when the movie was released to the public? What the researchers are looking for is something called abnormal return.
Why does the professor say this?
You have to look at the context of the market at the time.
This is the end of the listening paper. Now, you have 5 minutes to transfer your answers to your answer sheet. This is the end of the listening test. Please put your pen down.